St. Catharines Mayor Mat Siscoe is back to talk about what is happening around the city. Good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Always a fun drive in.
You're wearing some Niagara Ironbacks stuff.
Yes, the newest baseball team in St. Catharines. We're pretty excited. It's the Summer Collegiate Wood Bat League, so very high level, the best college players in North America play in this league. Graduates a lot of folks up to the major leagues, and we had our first home game on the weekend. It was a good time, good crowd, and just exciting to have baseball, high-level baseball back in St. Catharines.
It's a sharp uniform as well. Let's talk about a very interesting story in St. Catharines where people who have accessed homeless shelters and have become violent in that setting have been banned from those shelters and are now ending up in encampments. So what's the update on this?
Yeah, I brought this to Regional Council last month and was asking, basically I want staff to come up, what's our alternative housing plan? You know, like you're going to restrict people from shelters. I struggle with that a little bit as well. But okay, so what's the plan? And up to this point, the plan has been, well, good luck. And they've just been allowed to live in the parks in St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Welland. So that's not good enough. You know, I mean, if these folks are, in a lot of cases, dangerous enough that staff don't feel they can stay in there because, you know, violent crimes are being committed, well, I wonder why the police aren't being called, but also you can't then just release them and say, well, listen, good luck, you have to go live in the park somewhere. That's not appropriate. So I asked for an alternative housing plan for these folks. Council decided to defer and give staff some time to figure out what that might look like. And that's frustrating for me because that means that homelessness was the actual policy, right? And that can't be our policy. If these folks are too dangerous to be in the shelter, they can't be in our parks.
City Council also rubber stamped a new public space use bylaw. What's going to be the impact of this?
This is really about just making sure, like we accept there have been court decisions say if you don't have shelter space and there isn't enough in Niagara, that you can't just tear down encampments willy-nilly. Right. And I actually respect that viewpoint. I think that makes sense. But what I've said is, listen, there are some places where encampments can't be. Like we have encampments popping up next to elementary schools. We have them in playgrounds and parks next to sports fields. We've had encampments being built right up against people's like fences. I've said, and council has agreed, listen, there has to be some separation. So 100 meters from schools, 50 meters from playgrounds and parks, 30 meters from people's property lines. There are still parts of the city where we don't prohibit encampments. People keep asking, well, will you tell us, make a map of where those will be? And I've said, I'm never going to say that encampments are okay because, again, I don't believe that homelessness should be the policy. I think you're letting the region and the province and the feds off the hook when you do that. The one level of government that can't build housing and shelters is the local area municipality, so the city. But the region has that mandate and they tax for it. The province has that mandate with the region and they tax for it. The feds also can do it. We're not able to do it. So I'm not saying encampments are okay anywhere. We accept they have to exist sometimes, but those upper levels of government need to take responsibility for what is their responsibility.
Right. We have a story in the news this morning about the eventual twinning of the Garden City Skyway. It's a wee closer to reality. How far along is it, and what's the update?
So when I got elected in 2010, this was one of the first reports I ever got was the start of the process. And I'll admit at the time I thought, oh, do we really need to do that? But then you start to dig into it and you realize, okay, so the bridge that's there actually needs to be fully replaced, right? You have to take the deck off, put a new deck on. You can't do that without twinning the highway. And so a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, there's not that much gridlock. There isn't right now. It's a future problem for sure in that part of the highway. But to rehabilitate the bridge, you have to build a second bridge or else you're shutting down the bridge and there's no access for a couple of years. So, you know, this is going on, like I said, it's 15 years now. We seem to now, the rubber's hitting the road. This government is taking it seriously and trying to get the ball moved forward. The detailed design, we're hoping, you know, that we start to get construction done in the next few years. I know a lot of properties have already been bought by the province to make sure they have the space for it. So we're looking forward to getting going.
Really quick, do you have an ETA? An estimated ETA?
You know, the minister was asked yesterday and couldn't give one, so I'm not going to pretend to know.
Okay. We do have video evidence of your first ceremonial pitch for the Ironbacks. Let's roll the tape. Here's Mat Siscoe on the mound.
There's the kick. There's the bounce,
Yeah, listen, at least the form was good.
So I will say this in the video, and it's great that you can't hear it. You can hear the crowd of 600 people just groan. It was one of the most deflating, defeating sounds I've ever heard in my life. But the former mayor had gotten into my head the week before and said, I 3-hopped the ball when I had to do it. So that was a 2-hop. I was impressed. Yours,
here's mine.
You were smart. See, you didn't have the camera person follow the pitch.
Well, I didn't know where the camera person was going to be. And also the pitcher gave me the hairy eyeball, like, don't you dare step on my mound. And so I did 1-hop it to the plate and bounced just before the plate. I was working on my split finger fastball. It didn't go according to plan, but
so I was trying to throw a screwball.
Yeah.
And I've been using the excuse I threw from the mound and it's downhill and it just throws off your mechanics so much. And really, I haven't thrown a ball in 10 years.
Matt's going to get his redemption sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for watching CH Morning Live. More to come after the break.